on, everybody? Welcome to the Clubhouse. I am Geddis, and of course, I got Ryan with me. What's going on, Ryan?
What's up, Geddis? We're back. What are these supposed to be once a month? But I feel like we just did this.
Yeah, we did just do this, but we had a wonderful topic that you hit me with, and I didn't have anything for this week, so I was like, hey, why not discuss this? But I'm annoyed. Because obviously this topic, and if you're reading the title, you can probably kind of tell what it is. We're going to talk about this in general, but I had mentioned to my boss, Anthony DiNardo, in the group chat, right? Because this is the North Shore 9 channel. This is just a show on it. To talk about the whole Trevor Bauer thing. And I was explicitly told that I was not to discuss it. Like, no, we're not touching it. We're not touching that with the 10-foot pole. We're going to leave it alone because, we're the nice guys, right? And that's probably too polarizing of a topic to discuss. And, that's going to be different types of opinions and blah, blah, blah. Personally, I think DiNardo was kind of, he didn't want unfiltered stuff coming from us. So it's like he put the chains on, right? But I'm annoyed because I get a text message from Ryan, and he says, "Oh, did you see yesterday's North Shore 9 episode?" I'm like, "No, I haven't. Let me go check it." And what do I see? Should the Pirates sign Trevor Bauer? Interesting. A topic that I was told not to discuss. Not only are they discussing it, it's the damn headline. It's in the head. It's in the title. It's in the title. Like, it's in the title. Yep. I feel like I've been robbed because we were going to talk about this like 2 months ago. I felt like, and I get it. Chapman gets signed, and of course it kind of brings the topic back up. But then why is it okay to discuss it now and not 2 months ago?
And why weren't you or I invited to last night's show?
But that's also very interesting because we also had opinions about this topic, and for some odd reason, we weren't invited. I mean, we had this discussion back and forth in the chat or whatnot, and we talked about it. And I feel so upset that our opinion wasn't sought after, and not only that, the topic was discussed after we were told not to discuss it. So guess what? Good thing we have the Clubhouse because we're going to discuss some stuff today. Are we not?
Right. That's what the Clubhouse is about, right?
Right. I can
some behind the scenes stuff, some controversial topics, but I mean, this is definitely behind the scenes. Yeah. I don't know. Is DiNardo even going to let this hit the airwaves?
Oh, he better, because this is, I mean, I know DiNardo. DiNardo's all about controversy, right? All right. So, I mean, hey, like I don't want to pull the full veil behind, because there was another person that said he didn't want to discuss it, and he also was on that episode and had a lot to say about it, and he was the first person to speak. But I was like, yeah. But I was like, come on. So now we can discuss it, but ours is not going to be as specific as Trevor Bauer. But like I said, it may come up and may be something that we discuss. So I guess ultimately, what it is should teams sign bad guys? And I listened to the last episode of the North Shore 9 Live, and it was some very good points were made. Jim made some good points about Trevor Bauer, not so much about the domestic stuff, but just overall being a bad teammate. So I want to get your opinion on guys that have passed, right, that can be deemed as bad or something, or they made a mistake or whatever it was. I want to get your idea. Should a team take a flyer on a guy that may have had a checkered past?
I mean, and a simple answer, yes. And it's just, I think it all comes down to how each individual basically is a fan.
Mm-hmm.
As a fan of the Pittsburgh Pirates or the Steelers or any other team, I just don't care about what players are doing, in their personal time, whatever. I don't care if they're necessarily a bad dude, as we're going to label some of these guys, because there are assholes across the sport, all sports. I just don't. And just getting real quick at us, I did feel like our thunder was taken, because you and I texted you like last week. It was like, hey, let's talk about this, because it obviously was relevant with Chapman getting signed by the Pirates, which was completely out of left field, pun intended there. And, and then everybody was like, well, they signed Chapman. why not sign Bauer too if they're going to go ahead and sign bad dudes or whatever?
Right.
So, obviously it was relevant, but we had it all ready. We were going to talk about it. And then I pull up, North Show 9 last night. And it's like, oh, they're going to talk about it. And I was like, okay, they're going to talk about Chapman signing. I get it. They're going to talk about, the other signing, Hoskins. But yeah, they had to go into Trevor Bauer.
Right.
And I mean, it was, the blog posts and everything. Definitely a polarizing topic. But I want to keep
told not to touch it.
Right. Like, see, that's why I don't even. You talked to DiNardo. I didn't even bring it up to DiNardo. It's just like I'm one of those, like, you don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness later. Just do it and ask for forgiveness. So I didn't even talk to him or like bring it up. I was just like, Geddis and I are just going to talk about this. And
it was in the group chat. It was in the group chat. I remember I was like, I kind of want to discuss this. And it may have not been there. Maybe it was Jim that shot it down, but it was one of those two. And they're like, we don't know if we really want to touch that. It's a hot topic, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, that's why I want to touch it.
Yeah. And then they're out here blog posts, NS9 live tweets, and I get it. I mean, the blog post, it all blew up yesterday. It's not negativity, but it's that controversy that sells, that it's a polarizing topic and people have very strong opinions on it one way or the other.
So you said that you don't necessarily care about what they do in their personal life. And I know, look, people are going to take that and try to chop it up and attack the point, right? Attack that. And, you don't care if this person killed somebody and did it. Obviously, that's not what you mean. There's a certain extent to it. So elaborate so people don't try to try to make it sound worse than what you're getting at, as if they don't have any.
What we're actually saying. Yeah, right. What I'm actually saying here. Yeah. I totally like not saying I don't care. Like, obviously, if somebody is number one, convicted or charged or in a trial for an actual crime or a felony or worse, like that. Yeah. I don't, obviously that guy shouldn't be playing any, for any team really, because they're either in jail or they're on trial for it or whatever. But my thing is, like, we looked at the Steelers. The Steelers signed Michael Vick years ago. Michael Vick obviously was charged, convicted, served time in jail, served his sentence. And afterwards, he played, I think he played for the Eagles and Steelers and a couple other teams. And, that obviously had a PR hit and all that stuff. But my thing is, that was, he served that time. Now, while I don't agree with what he did, I still don't think, hey, he's probably not a good guy, or whether he changed or had that redemption to him or not. I didn't care that the Steelers signed him or not. Like, what was his ability at that point to helping the team win was pretty much all I cared about. And maybe I know a lot of people take this hard stance, like Jim, as a fan, like they don't want to cheer for that individual and they're not going to. And that's fine. You don't have to cheer for that individual. But me, and this is just how I fan, if the person's either never been convicted or never charged, or they are essentially, served their time and free, they are a free man, as the justice system. And I get it. The justice system isn't perfect. There's a lot of stuff he said, she said, and it's just things we're just never going to know what really happened on some of these cases. But if they are, by all intents and purposes of the law, they are a free man, I think they should have a right to be signed. And as far as my team signing one of them, I don't really care. I just don't fan that way. Like, and I don't root for the players, Geddis. And that sounds weird. Like, I don't just root for the players and say, oh, okay, this guy. Obviously, like, there's good guys and there's guys that you want to see do well just because they seem like a great guy.
Right.
But I just don't. It's just, I want the team. I root for not the name on the back, the name on the front of the jersey. And I've always looked at that way. And I don't know if it goes back to because I worked in baseball and I kind of saw, I did see the behind the scenes. And there are guys that it's just not publicly known that are just assholes. There's egos and different personalities across clubhouses, locker rooms, in NFL, baseball, everywhere, that you're bringing all these guys together and they're not always going to mesh. There are just bad dudes or dudes that have egos and don't really care about this or that. But I don't care. Like, if they can help the team win, then I say bring them on. Now, if it's, something where they are facing legal trouble or in the middle of it, then, obviously most of the leagues come down on that and, either suspend them and things like that. But if they're free man and able to, able to sign with the team, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, so I'm conflicted. I don't know if I'm as staunch in it as you, maybe because I don't know, because I don't necessarily think you're wrong, right? Um, my issue is I can understand how there's going to be some PR backlash, right, from signing a player like that. Like, for instance, Michael Vick's a great example, right?
Yeah.
Dude, his people were freaking drowning dogs and let's shoot him, like doing crazy.
Peter was out there, I think, protesting every game that the Steelers
right.
had.
But the interesting thing about that is that when you start to win, people then forget. Like people quickly forget, and that's like what's kind of good about this country. Is like, you know, you have the right to, you have the opportunity to redeem yourself and fix or right the wrongs that you have. Now there may be players like Trevor Bauer that might just be a jerk and does not look to be a good guy after something bad may have happened. But the problem is that it's hard for me when you have a person that may have done something and they go to court, right, and they acquitted or whatever, and then we make decisions based on the court of public opinion, because there has to be some barometer, some standard that's set, right? So the standard is, okay, hey, look, if the person's convicted, you have an issue. This is a person I don't want to touch. But if the person's acquitted, then that person's free at that point. So then they're free to do what it is that they want to do. So I can't be like, it's hard for me to want to throw somebody away, regardless of what they did. It's hard for me to throw them away if they got acquitted, but I think they did it. So it's no different than like, I guess OJ would be a good example, right? So like a lot of people think that OJ did it, right? I think OJ's son did it. I think OJ's son did it. I don't think OJ did it. I think OJ's son did it.
Tune into Geddis's crime pod next.
Right, exactly. I think 100% OJ's son is the one who did it. But OJ may have helped, but OJ's son.
So he was like protecting his son, essentially,
basically,
or he was in on it too.
Yeah. Watch his son in the court case and how he broke down, but nobody else did. It was 100% his son. But anyway, but like, I guess he's somebody that was acquitted, but by the court of public opinion was ostracized, right? Even though he got on Twitter, people started following him on Twitter. They started listening to what he's got to say, all that kind of stuff.
His account that's a lit follow.
Right.
When he starts doing these videos, and I mean, I'm just the comments alone, but
right. But it's hard. It's hard to be like, okay, I have somebody that could potentially help my team out. The person was acquitted, and this is not specific to Trevor Bauer. This is you could put Michael Vick, you put whoever you want to position. It's hard to say you've been acquitted or you served your time. You're an asset. I'm not going to touch you. Right. I get the PR behind that, but all you have to do is win. You start to win.
Yeah.
That's it. If the person's trash, you just let them go, and that's the end of it.
Right. So. And my thing is, if it's not like the Pirates are going to sit down and have a team meeting and be like, "Hey, are you guys cool if we sign this?" But I mean, like, if the clubhouse is cool with it, now there's a whole separate topic that is Chapman or Bauer or any of these guys like a clubhouse cancer. That's a whole different topic. If the Pirates sit down with them and they feel like he is a clubhouse cancer still, or he hasn't really changed, or he's not remorseful, then that is different. Like, the Pirates can make that decision, or any team can make that decision on what they believe. But here's where, like, especially for the Pirates, Geddis, like, we've been following the Pirates for so many years. They've been awful for 99% of it, of all that time in my lifetime. Like, I want the Pirates to win. I want them to win. That's why the thing with the Bauer situation, where he's probably like, no one's probably going to sign him.
Right.
But that's exactly why the Pirates should be looking into it. Because number one, he's going to come cheap, because he's probably going to be on some prove it deal. And Lord knows the Pirates are cheap. The Pirates have shown us many years over and over again, they don't give two shits about their PR. They're horrible at PR. They don't care what the fans think. They're just going to do their company line, and that's that. So they don't care about the PR hit. They're cheap, which is perfect, because that deal's, Bauer's not going to get many money from anywhere else probably. And he has that potential to where, yes, he hasn't pitched in a couple of years in the majors, and he was over pitching in Japan, but he has the potential to be a top of the rotation arm, which just so happens to be the Pirates' biggest weakness right now, that they are like desperately need. And they're not going to go out and pay $15-20 million a year for it. So this is the exact kind of deal that I'm like, they should be looking at. And I get it if fans don't like it, but the Pirates do moves all the time where the fans don't like it. But I'm like, unless he's actively hurting someone right now, or he's in, I know there's civil suits pending and things like that, but like you said, if he's acquitted or he's never been convicted or charged, it's just one of those, like, he's open to sign. Why aren't they talking about it? So it fits the Pirates so well. And that's what, like, my point was. And I got people coming at me on Twitter X saying, oh, you have girl dad in your profile. How can you support this guy? I'm not supporting this guy. I'm not supporting Chapman. I'm supporting the team that he's pitching for. I wanted to pitch. And here's the best thing. And Tyler kind of brought this up, one of the good points he made yesterday. I might have lost you there.
I haven't said anything. You're
okay.
Good.
One of the things, if that player, Chapman or whoever that's a bad dude, if they struggle when they're with your team, you can blast them all day long.
Right.
Tear them up on X and on NS9 Live. And you can just go to town, which Tyler already said he's going to as soon as Chapman struggles or whatever. So that's the thing. As a fan, you have that right to boo and to tear them up if they're performing bad. Or just you think they're a bad dude, but that's your right. So like I said, if he's helping the team win or any player is helping the team win, I just want to win at this point. You look at the Browns. The Browns signed Kareem Hunt. Hunt. Obviously, we know what he did. Like, Ray Rice got blackballed from everything just because it was on camera.
And he wasn't good anymore.
Well, that too. But Kareem Hunt, wasn't there some footage on that too? And that was in downtown Cleveland, I think, when that happened.
That I don't remember. I don't
think it was as clear as like Ray Rice's video was.
Right.
But I think it was, they signed Kareem Hunt, and he's played now with the Browns for multiple years, and
nobody talked about it.
Yeah,
nobody talked about it.
Exactly. Nobody cares, and it was a big topic when he was available. It was like, oh, would you want to sign him? I wouldn't. And some teams will take that stance, like Jim or Donardo or Tyler has. Some teams will say we're not going to do that. We're not going down that road, and that's fine. Those teams have that right, just like we do as a fan. But the Pirates need to do everything they could in their capability to compete and win. And they're clearly not going to spend enough money to do that. And they can't compete with all these top free agents going to the Dodgers and all these other teams. So look for stuff like this. Look for something creative like this. And if some of the fans yell about it and whatever, they're going to do that. But like you said, if they start winning and he's playing well, it's going to go away. And like I said, you don't have to cheer for him and get his jersey and, hey, sign my jersey. Right. No, you just, hey, cheer for the team. And if he's winning, he's helping the team out.
What's interesting about this to me, right, is I think a lot of people think the juice just isn't worth the squeeze, which I can understand. The potential blowback, the potential issues he can cause in the locker room, it's not worth the squeeze. If this was Garrett Cole that did this, it would be a whole different discussion, because then people would say the juice is worth the squeeze. So ultimately, it's not, it's
all about performance.
Yeah, and we'll get into the psychology of this, right? And this is what makes the Clubhouse so unique and fun for me, at least. People have moral high grounds, right? And I understand that, but there's always a price. Yeah. There is always a price, and I know people want to stand on they want to stand on their soapbox and say, I would never do this. But you look at people like Kobe Bryant, and you're like, this stuff happened, something happened, whether he said, she said, he's getting paid out. I mean, she's paying him out, blah, blah, blah. Nike didn't drop him. They didn't drop. No, not Nike. It's not that Nike didn't drop him. Adidas dropped and Nike signed him right afterwards, right?
Right.
He's been making shoes. He passed away. His shoes are selling like hotcakes. They're selling like hotcakes. People argue that he's top three to ever play in the NBA, which he's not. But they say that he's top 3 in the NBA. The people don't talk about the other stuff like that, and they'll bring it up when they want to win a point. But the vast majority of people love Kobe Bryant.
Well, and that's the thing about this too. It's the redemption story.
Yeah.
Kobe turned it around. He had a family. He, was a great guy, had a great career.
Yep.
He turned it around. Like you said, nobody talked about that anymore. Most people probably forgot about that incident way back when.
Yes.
Definitely somebody that has been fighting with me on Twitter totally forgot that, because they literally brought Kobe up as an argument on their behalf. And I was like, well, you need to check into his past a little bit.
He just
you apparently forgot something. So, but I get it. That's the redemption story. That's why you said, like, that's why America is great. People love that redemption story. So if they are, able to do that, then you might have a great story on your hand. Now, if you sign somebody and they aren't a good clubhouse guy and the team sees that and they like this deal that this would be for the Pirates, it'd be a cheap deal. They could just walk away from it.
Right.
Like, the Pirates would be out some money, but who cares? It's not my money. And then, so like it just, they could walk away from it if it was really like being a detriment to the team or if he was pitching poorly.
So what I find interesting is that you have people that will rock with certain teams that have done this in the past, right? Lakers being one for example. And you have people that are still fans of this team when they had a player that may have done something which we don't know for a fact what happened, but was accused of grape, right? Because you can't say the other word here on YouTube. And they still stuck by the team. They still stick by the team. The team won championship with that particular person, and they just ride off into the sunset with it. So when you're able, you can't pick and choose who you do that with. You have to give them the opportunity to succeed or fail. I'm not necessarily saying that every player that is bad, I guess, necessarily deserves a shot, but you can't be so staunch in your belief when you're willing to let it go, depending on how good the player is. Because if that's the case, that means it has nothing to do with what they actually did. It has more to do with how good you think that player is.
And that's true.
Case, that is super hypocritical. And you can't stand on that moral high ground anymore because that's not the barometer which you would want to use that particular player or not.
Yeah, Geddis, that's true too, because it definitely is that performance. Because if it was a backup center that got convicted or accused of something, he'd be gone. He'd be gone like immediately. There wouldn't even be a second thought in the team's meetings or whatever. If it was like Tom Brady that got confused, he'd be getting chance after chance after chance, benefit of the doubt. Teams would be picking him up even if the Patriots got rid of him. So that absolutely, it's hypocritical, and it is there, and it's reality of what it's just reality. And the other thing to that is, like, what is it about a sports team that, to me, like, that fans like Jim or Tyler like feel the need to be like, I don't want that guy on my team because I think he's a bad dude, or I know he's a bad dude. Like, what does it matter if he's performing and getting the job done? Like, if Trevor Bauer was a roofer and he had the same exact legal issues that he had, and his roofing job got rid of him, or he had to switch to a couple of different companies, and he got to the point where, he was free of that, or acquitted on one of them, or a couple of the charges dropped, and he was at the point where he is now, and he went back to roofing. I mean, are you sitting down there and protesting like the roofing company and like, I don't want him fixing my roof? Like, it's one of those, like, what is it about sports that people like feel that need to be like, oh, I want my team to be all the highest moral value?
You don't think it's the money that the player makes?
Like, what, you don't want them to make that money because they're
so there's
because it could be a CEO of some company that's making a lot of money and gets another shot,
right? Or maybe, I guess maybe it's I just don't, honestly, I think it's I just don't like the guy. I think that's more so what it is. I just don't like the guy. So it's a guy they don't like. They don't want them on their team. I don't like what he stands for. I mean, think about like if it was a player that was to come out and said that he was like a huge like Trump supporter or something like that, right? Or he was a Biden supporter and you were of the opposite affiliation. You're gonna be like, if you're somebody that's super polarized by politics, you're gonna be like, well, I don't want that guy on my team because they're not part of my team. So I guess I can understand that how somebody could just say, I just don't like the guy. if we talk about Trevor Bauer specifically, kind of like what Jim said in the last episode, yeah, he has all these other issues that potentially he's had a different place that he's been in. So excluding the stuff that he's being accused of, those are potential reasons why you don't want to sign him. Now, I don't know if those reasons are as impactful if you remove the domestic violence stuff. Because if you take that off, then he's just a bad teammate guy. Maybe you take a flyer on him. But when you add that aspect into it, then people are like, oh, yeah, no, this dude's a woman beater. I don't want that guy on my team. So I can understand how somebody can be like, I don't want that guy specifically. But like even in Chapman's situation, I don't remember everything specifically. So I don't necessarily want to comment on it.
You remember? I remember back on, I think it was Donato's dugout. Because that's when that story broke.
Right.
And that was years. I mean, it's like a decade ago now. And that broke, and we were, I think you nicknamed him 6 shots or something.
Oh, yeah.
Now they're saying he shot 8 shots. And I'm like, we were calling him 6 shots. So I don't know.
Right. But the thing is that the Pirates aren't the first team to sign him since then.
No, right. He's been signed.
He's been signed multiple times before. So the only
he was on the World Series champs last year. They picked him up at the deadline.
Right. So it's like, okay. So it's not so much that I think to myself that the reason why this Chapman deal is such a big deal to people is because if you're willing to do this, then you might as well go ahead and sign Trevor Bauer. Because, Chapman did all this stuff before. Bauer's what we need, so just go ahead and sign him too. And that's the reason why everybody's now coming out and saying, well, I don't like what Chapman did. I don't want Chapman on the team. Is it that you don't want Chapman on the team, but you don't like the fact that Trevor Bauer now becomes a potential person to put on the team? You don't like him.
Yeah, I think most of them, not say most of them, but there were a lot of people that were just opposed to Chapman signing to begin with. I mean, number one, a whole baseball side of things, it really was out of complete left field for the Pirates. Like that, it's just not really. They could have spent the money elsewhere on the team for like starting pitching. They didn't really need Chapman on the team, but whatever. That's a whole nother topic. But I think there are people that were just opposed to it because, he's a bad dude. Just like, I don't even know if you remember Jason Grilly. Do you remember Grilled Cheese? He was the closer for the Pirates like in 2014, 13.
Oh, yeah. No, I wasn't watching. Was I watching baseball then? I don't think I started until like 18.
Yeah. I mean, well, you were on the dugout, but I was starting to learn baseball.
I was starting to learn.
But he was the Pirates closer for a couple of years, and he was, he had been in baseball for a bunch of years, and he was lights out. Like he had a couple of years where he was just, unbelievable, and everybody loved him. His last name was Grilly, Grilled Cheese. That was like his nickname. Mm. Well, he like wrote a book, like towards the end of it, and it came out, and I think he was like pretty much like, I think he was off the Pirates at that point, or he was on to the next team or retired at that point. But like people now on Twitter and like the Pirates fans, they like hate Jason Grilly now because in his book, he was like, it just came off as, well, this guy's a douchebag. Like he's just a narcissistic, like, ego driven, thinks he's like better, bigger than God, blah, blah, blah. Mm. And it's like, people like it, like you would think he did something like to get convicted or something. People like hate him. And I'm like, guys, like it's not crazy to tell me like, a lot of these athletes that have been getting their ass kissed most of their lives, high school, college, beyond, most of these guys have an ego. Like they think they're better than the general person because they're making millions of dollars to throw a baseball or to catch a football. And like a lot of these guys do have ego problems and they are assholes. And that's why like it really was like an eye opener to me. And maybe it's again, because I was on the inside and I worked in a clubhouse and I saw guys that were just, I mean, you had guys that were quiet, didn't say anything, didn't want to be part of like the team camaraderie, playing music after. You had other guys in the corner reading books when the other team, other players are dancing to whatever. And it's like, you had other guys that were assholes, other guys pulling pranks and getting other guys ticked at them. So like you just have, and so it was eye opener to me that I think a lot of fans think that, or they envision their team just being this, everybody gets along and we're just, everybody's, picking everybody up and you're doing a great job and, keep it up and everyone's just positive. And it's not like that. Like very rarely does a like you've seen it working in corporate America and things like that. Any job, like you've seen any job that has like more than like 5 employees, you just don't gel with everybody.
Right.
And you work hour after, 40 hours a week or more with these people. And a lot of people you don't like you're not going to hang out with them outside of work, or you never would. So I think a lot of people forget about like that aspect of it. And they just think that, well, my team's just, everything needs to be gung-ho, great. They're just going to help pick each other up. And in reality, that rarely ever happens. Like you have a team every once in a while that comes out and just, they just gel and they have that team chemistry that's like really rare. But you hear even players talk about it. Like that's just when they're in that spot, it's so special and it's like, but it's rare. It just doesn't come up that much. And I think that's where people just they think that's what they envision. That's what their team should be.
Right. And I think they also look at the player and they think like they're supposed to be, because of the position they're in, they're supposed to be like which most people in general are supposed to be morally sound, right? But like when you have the one person,
like being a role model too.
Right, yeah, a role model. And people have different definitions of morality, right? So it's not the same for each person. But there's a certain expectation that people have for certain, like two people that come to mind are Charles Barkley and Cam Newton, right? Cam Newton, I'll never forget this. I thought it was hilarious, and I thought it was justified. When Cam Newton was at a camp with a bunch of kids, and one of the kids was going off on him, talking about like,
I remember this.
Yeah, he was washed or something like that. And Cam Newton walked up to him and said the kid was broke, and then started going in on the kid. And the kid was like, "You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to do that." Well, no, I'm human. Yes, I can.
Right.
I'm going to punch down. Because that's what life is. If you feel confident enough to run your mouth to a grown man that's a football player saying he's trash, you should be able to deal with the outcomes. But then when you're like, I don't want to deal with the outcome of what's going to happen of what I'm saying, then it's like, well, come on now. What are you doing here? So there's this expectation of what athletes are supposed to do because they're in a privileged position. They're able to play a game to win, to get millions of dollars. But you got to think about the way these dudes think about it. They're like, look, I'm the best in my craft. I deserve to get this. I'm like, there's one LeBron James. Like, there's not many of them that exist on this planet. He's an anomaly. So, of course, he's going to think a certain way about himself. Now, he's done a very good job of carrying himself and making sure that people don't see that. But if, like, something came out where LeBron James was, like, a narcissist and was saying stuff to people that worked around him that weren't necessarily nice, I'd be like, oh, that makes sense. I mean.
Yeah. But LeBron's he's a weird dude. And that doesn't mean he's bad or something, but he's just a lot of these guys are weird dudes.
Right.
And a lot of this stuff never gets publicly. Like there is bad dudes across baseball that we just don't know about. And I'm not saying like there's murderers on certain teams or something, but then there's guys that, just aren't good dudes or, it never makes it light. And a lot of it is because of that, it's the sports and a lot of the things get hidden and kind of, like you said, they get the benefit of the doubt and they kind of, get chance after chance, but it's just the reality of it. But yeah, I don't know. To me, it's just like the team thing. It's players see it too. It's their job. Like, yeah, it's a privileged position, I guess, but they're playing, but they were hired, they were signed for that job. They have a contract. And, as long as they don't break that and they're performing well, like to me, it's like, who cares? Like I just don't care. Like I said, and I don't like Andrew McCutchen with the Pirates. I love Andrew McCutchen. Like very rarely do I have a player that like I am a true fan of. Like it's players come and go. That's why I said you people buy these jerseys with players and it's like they're traded 5 minutes later, especially with like the Pirates where
that's why I don't buy jerseys.
Right. Nobody ever stays here. And that, like, I have like 3 jerseys in my life, like Hines Ward, Troy Polamalu, like Mary Lemieux after he retired, like guys that you knew weren't going to leave that were there forever. Like those are the jerseys. I just don't buy, jerseys. I don't root for the player really. I root for the team and that's the way I fan. And I'm not saying that people that say, I don't want this guy on my team and I'm not going to root for him. I'm not saying that's wrong either. It's just not what I do. And I don't think what I'm saying is wrong either. Like it's really everybody's opinion on it. And you're either for it or against it. But I don't, hey, if you want to protest the team, if they sign someone you don't like, or you don't want to watch them anymore, or you don't want to cheer for them, don't do it.
Yeah, that's your right.
But as soon as the team starts winning, you're probably going to be watching. I mean, that's the reality of it.
I'll say this before we get out of here. So I remember, I remember when this was, I don't remember what year it was, but it was around the time that the players in the NFL were kneeling for the anthem.
Yep.
And Jackson was a huge military town. And in London, the Jaguars kneeled with Shad Khan. They kneeled, right? And I think it was coming off of something that Jerry Jones had said, right? And I think that's part of the reason why they did it. Everybody in Jacksonville was livid, pissed. People in not everybody, but people in Jacksonville were pissed. This is a military town. How could you do this? Blah, 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 blah. They're not going to be able to sell tickets. And I remember saying, I'm like, if the Jaguars make the playoffs, they're going to sell out. Right. And we made the playoffs and they sold out.
Right.
So I'm like,
winning cures all.
Yeah, winning cures everything. I get it. Stand staunchly on your beliefs. But if they do something you don't like, you better bounce and never return. Because if you don't, and I see you walk through that door, and I'm like, I knew it. I knew you'd be back. Then you're just talking. Then you're just talking. Yep. I like to see people put their money where their mouth is. If the Pirates do sign him, right, then I need to see people boycott that team. I'm talking about don't watch him no more, don't talk about him no more, don't do anything. And I'm not saying that I'm an advocate for him or for him not to get signed, because some of the stuff that he's been accused of is wild as hell. But what I'm saying, though, is that if they do and they start winning and he's like balling out of control, don't be like, oh, well, maybe I'll watch a little bit now and talk about it.
Because it's all talk. A lot of them are talk that they're going to not watch or whatever. But hey, you don't have to root for him. You can still root for the team.
Yeah.
But just not root for the individual.
Isn't there a player, the player that also had a domestic violence issue that was on the Pirates and he wasn't even that good?
Oh, G1 Bay. Yeah. Yeah. He's still there. Yeah, he's still on the team. They brought that up last night too, because the Pirates, he had like a really good month early in the year, and it was like the Pirates were almost like running a whole marketing campaign for him. Like they were all about him, and a lot of people didn't know, like a lot of just general fans didn't know that background of his. And so Donardo and Jim and them were on there like basically telling people on Twitter like, well, here's his background and stuff. So and then it's up to that person to make their decision and whether they're going to cheer for that. But like to me, he's another guy. He'll leave. There'll be somebody new, in his place. It's a revolving door to me. Like I just don't subscribe to that where it's like I'm going to fully support this player and I'm loyal to him. And they, most of the players don't care about you. So like,
right, so you don't care about the player,
right?
It's
like
a cog in the machine.
You
can take the cog and put another cog in.
Right. You're a Jaguars fan, Geddis. Like Trevor Lawrence is your quarterback. He's supposedly the quarterback of the future. We don't know what type of dude Trevor Lawrence is.
We really don't.
Really? I mean, we kind of have an idea. He's, but unless you're like close with him or his friends or you don't know anything about these guys for the most part.
And look, I liked Blake Bortles. He was awful. They got rid of him. I never thought about him again. Him again. And now we're in the situation now with Trevor Lawrence where we're about to pay him $50-60 million a year. And I don't think he deserves that, but he's going to ask for it and we're going to pay it. And I'm just like, I like the guy, but if they let him go to restart the quarterback clock, I'm not going to be like, oh my God, no. I'm going to be like, all right, well, what did y'all trade up to get? What did y'all trade to get up?
Right.
Did y'all get Justin Fields? Or I don't know, which would be stupid because that doesn't make any sense to do that. But I'm like, whatever quarterback you got, like it's just the way it is. I understand the premise. To wrap up, I understand the premise of why people don't want bad guys on their team, especially somebody that's done or has look, there's enough smoke to say that the guy did something, right? But we just don't know the extent, especially considering the fact that there's another person that was attached to this and we don't know how innocent that situation is too, because people are saying that this was a money play. So, and we don't know. So we don't have the facts. We have no clue.
And that's so tough when it's an athlete involved, because unfortunately that stuff happens all the time. It could be two shitty people involved, like Tyler said last night. Yes. And you don't know, it's he said, she said. And it's like, well, whose word are you taking here? And it's probably a little bit both true, and it's like you said, there's some smoke. So something, probably did happen. And it's tough. I wanted to mention Geddis before we close, like, Ben Roethlisberger was another one. Obviously, Pittsburgh is not new to this kind of situation. Ben was already on the team, already had been, Super Bowl winning quarterback, and this stuff came out.
Where was the outrage?
Well, yeah, exactly. But that's the thing about the performance and how, because I was in Pittsburgh, I was working in Pittsburgh at the time. There was so many people coming to his defense, and right off the bat, she's looking for a payday, blah, blah, blah. And so it was immediately to his defense. But if it was like a backup center, it just goes back to who the individual is and how he's performing. The other thing I wanted to mention, you said about role models, how it's a position of privilege, and a lot of people look for them to be role models to kids, because baseball, football, basketball, all these are a kid's game, and kids watch. I can't stand when people come up and say, somebody does something, or somebody drops an F-bomb on live TV after a game, and they're like, how am I going to how can I explain this to my kid? That blows my mind. Yeah. Have a conversation with your kid. Right. That's the learning point. That's the in to tell them, hey, what you just heard or what you just saw, that's not right. And here, this person, probably an idiot. There's a lot of idiots in the world. Right. And it's a learning, experience. You got to teach them that. So I had people coming at me saying, oh, how could you say this about Bauer when you have 2 daughters? That's what your profile says. I'm going to teach them. Right. Hopefully when they have enough judgment to not put themselves, use your best judgment out there, because there are shitty people in this world. Right. There are dudes that prey after women and abuse them, and verbally and physically. And hopefully I can teach them enough to say, no, to put yourself in the right spots where you're not in that situation and better. And it's just that's what I mean. It's a learning, it's like an end to give yourself as a parent, a teaching, moment for your kid. And that's why it kills me when people flip out. They get so fake outrage, I call it, because it's like, how am I going to tell my kid about this? And it's like, talk to them, tell them it's not right.
It's as if it's as if people want to force. I cannot force another person to operate within the framework I want them to operate in. They're an autonomous being. They're going to do what they want to do. If Shaq is getting interviewed and he's like, "Oh, we're on live TV," I don't give a shit. If my kid hears that, I have to have a conversation with my kid. That's not a problem for me to have that conversation. Right. They're gonna, rather than being mad, I can't believe Shaq said that. Just be
you're on Twitter, type it up.
Yeah. I'm like, yo, Timmy, you can't talk like that. He's an adult. That was a slip. He didn't really mean to do that. He was just really passionate and really annoyed about what's going on. Things like this happen. Done. Right. It is literally done. But people try to make it more and more. Now, this whole, some of these other dudes, they'd be like, okay, look, these are the kind of guys, if it was my daughter, I'd be like, look, this is not the kind of guy you want to talk to. Right. Yeah, he may have money, and there's going to be dudes that you may be interested in that have money, but not all dudes with money are good guys. Look at what this guy was accused of doing. He looked at this is the interaction, met this girl on Instagram, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. Maybe you need to, when you're talking to people online, be careful, make sure what you're doing. Don't put yourself in a position where you don't want to be in or you're uncomfortable. If he asks something crazy, just don't do it because you really like him, blah, 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 blah. Yep. I have no problem having these discussions, because it's good to have these discussions, because something like that happening gives me the opportunity to bring that topic up. If it doesn't happen and it's happening in silence and people aren't saying anything about it or discussing it, then I would never think to have that conversation, because I only know the male perspective. So these are it's I'm not justifying what he's doing, because that's not the way I'm trying to come off. What I'm saying is that if he was a player that was signed, I can still be able to look at that and be like, okay, they're doing that because they feel like that's what's best for their team. They're just overlooking some of the stuff that he did in his personal life, because this is just a job, right? If he's acquitted, if he's free, he reserves the right to earn a living. The same way Michael Vick reserved the right to earn a living, the same way that all these other people that have committed crimes, sold weed, sold drugs, whatever, got out, they deserve the opportunity to earn a living. I can't tell the man that you don't deserve the opportunity to earn a living. Right. Now, if you want to sit down here and have the conversation to say, well, I don't think he should be a baseball player. He should be a plumber. Well, why? Are you saying being a plumber is not as good at, obviously they don't pay the same, but being a plumber is worth a guy that's done this and not a baseball player?
Right.
Like it doesn't make sense to opt.
Yeah, is it like what is it the money? Is it the status? Yeah, like what about that rubs them the wrong way essentially? But
right.
But yeah, to me, like that's just it's a teaching opportunity as a parent. And that's what I said. I knew as I get a little passionate about that. I know you have kids, so it's like, yeah, like to me, like, oh, if I'm following the Pirates and suddenly somebody gets arrested for, whatever, like the Vasquez a couple years ago. But like if something like that happens and people like they just want to go online and scream about something like, how am I going to explain this to my kids? Like, to tell them, here's what happened. He got caught doing something that was wrong. He shouldn't have been doing. It's a crime. Like that's why we have laws and crime. So like he got caught doing something. He got arrested, and now he lost his job. He lost his. It's a huge learning opportunity on that aspect, and you talk to him. I
think at times we downplay or we don't give enough credence to the fact that people need content on the internet. The same way we're talking about this, the same way people want to talk about it on the internet and have something to discuss and have discourse with people online and get more views, get more clicks and stuff like that. So everybody's marketing. To everybody. So a lot of times when I read things on the internet, even stuff from my own friends, I'm like, all right, bro. Like one of my friends I love him to death, but when Trump was in office, boy, he had content for days. Because he was just going in on Trump. And some of it was funny and some of it was not. But I'm like, this is content for you. So anyway.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, sports is an entertainment thing. It's on TV. It's entertainment. You go to games, and people see it as, hey, that's my entertainment. I don't want to root for this guy, but I just like I said, it's also entertainment. It's also like it's almost entertainment. Not that I'm saying like I want them to go sign a bunch of bad dudes, but it's almost entertainment too, just from watching people melt down on Twitter and X and go crazy. And like you said, people that are like, I'm never watching this team again. And then, they come back and stuff when the team's winning. But yeah, it was just, like I said, I'm trying to keep it general that, obviously the Pirates went out there and signed Chapman, which some people, didn't like. And then there's obviously Bauer out there that, may or may not sign with the team. And he may not. He may officially be blackballed from – they won't be officially banned, but, kind of like the Kaepernick thing where just no team wants to –
yeah, he'll be blackballed. Ain't nobody touching that.
Yeah, they just we're out, So that could happen. But I just thought it was interesting to say I thought it was an opportunity for the Pirates to maybe go out and get an edge somewhere else that they can't do because they aren't spending money, and we know that. And they don't, what do they care? They don't care about PR at this point. That's one thing we can all agree on, I think, at NS9 is that the Pirates just don't care. They have terrible PR people, and it's just they just do what they want to do.
So, awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on again. This is back-to-back weeks. I appreciate that. Everybody, if you made it this far, hit the like button, comment below, let us know. This is kind of like in opposition to what was on North Shore 9 a little bit. It's not like we completely disagree, but it's like we wanted to give a little bit of our points. I'm not going to censor myself anymore. I'm going to talk about what I want to.
And make sure you go on North Shore 9, message Donardo, tell him to stop censoring Geddis, take the chains off. We're gonna say what we want to say.
Yeah, exactly. Like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff, and tune in 2 weeks from now. Ryan might be on again, depending on how he feels. All right, y'all. Peace out.
See ya.
Well, thank you for watching. I know we try to provide the most entertaining content that we can, and we'd love to spread it to as many people as possible. So I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you could take the 5 seconds to like this video and subscribe to the page, it helps out so much more than you know. Thank you, and let's go Bucks.